Even though at the end of episode 1, Dorothy got a little bit of hope, a couple days later, the hope is gone. She's in a bad spot. Julian is actually staying over just to kind of be there for his sister. But he's staying in the same room that Leanne stayed in. And when he wakes up one day, he's a little creeped out, especially when he goes in the bathroom and someone has drawn a bath. He goes into Dorothy's office to see if she was the one who did it, but it's clear that she didn't. Because she is just laying on the couch, watching home movies of herself with Jericho, who is nonstop crying. In fact, the only time that he stops crying is when Leanne holds him. Julian, in fact, has to calm her down because she's focused on what these people might be doing to Jericho. The doorbell then rings, and when she goes downstairs, she's received a package. She assumes that it's from the people that took Jericho, but it's not. It's actually a present that Julian got for the baby for the baptism, little Spaceman suit. She tells Julian how her stomach hurts, and it must be because of Jericho, but he says no. It's because you haven't eaten in a bunch of days. You're assuming the worst, but he might be laughing. I mean, there's no way for you to actually know what he's up to. And that really upsets Dorothy, who looks at him and says, you don't believe in anything. You never did. You know what you are? You're an atheist. And then she just heads upstairs. But damn it, Julian paid for that Spaceman suit. It's going on a baby. He sees the doll there and he dresses it up in it. Julian then heads in the kitchen where Sean is making Dorothy some French toast just to cheer her up, although he does think that everything he's doing lately is just making things worse. Luckily for everybody in the house, Julian has another genius plan. A ransom. He asks Sean how much money he has and how much money they should ask for because he feels like his sister needs a little bit more hope. But Sean thinks that's absurd. Giving her hope through a fake ransom isn't the way to do things. Julian then notices that Sean is burning the caramel that he's cooking, so Julian lets him tend to that. But upstairs, Dorothy isn't doing a real great job of taking her mind off things. She's found a YouTube video where the Church of the Lesser Saints are going through some sort of ritual. They're all sitting in a barn as a guy, naked, is whipping himself, just like Leanne did in their own home. But she has to put the iPad down when she gets a phone call, and it's from work. They want her back on the news desk because she has to fill in. And when Julian finds out, he thinks this is a terrible idea. He warns her, yeah, but what about Jericho? And she shoots back, I'm doing this for Jericho. Julian tries to enlist Sean's help, but while Sean is a little worried about his wife going on TV, he's willing also to let her get out of the house and go to work. And Dorothy's whole thing is, well, if they're watching the news, then it'll give Jericho a little mommy time. Before she leaves, she asks Sean to tape the news, and she heads off. And one of the reasons that Sean was cool with letting her go is because Roscoe has shown up. He woke up outside in the car, and when he had trouble finding his keys, he went in the house. The problem is, Roscoe thinks it's Monday, and it's actually Friday. He can't account for where he's been, and that is really freaking out both Sean and Julian, because Roscoe is dead set on saying, no, it's Monday. I was outside in the car the whole time, when he really wasn't. And you can imagine being gone for 4 days. He is famished. He is inhaling food. And when they finally show him his phone, his first thing is he's got to get in touch with his family because they're going to be worried sick about him. Sean asks him, what's the last thing you remember? And he says, there was some lady in the street outside. Thought she needed help. I got out. That was it. Julian then grabs Roscoe's cell phone because he had a bunch of pictures from his pocket, but he also has about a 12-second video. And in that video, you can hear Roscoe pleading with these people to let him go. But you can also hear a voice in the background that kind of sounds like Leanne, telling him that there's no need to be scared. They're there to help him. Roscoe is crying his eyes out in this video, and Sean says, why is he crying like that? And Julian says, well, they're breaking him. It's what cults do. They start questioning Roscoe because he was clearly with these people, but he doesn't remember any of it. He just woke up. And after a very quick interrogation, it becomes obvious that Roscoe isn't holding back. He literally doesn't remember. He was either brainwashed or drugged or something. And what they need to do is unlock that memory. It's in there somewhere. And even Roscoe wants to know what the hell happened the last 4 days. And there's one person that can actually do that. Natalie. So she comes over, Sean explains the situation, and she agrees to help, hypnotizing Roscoe, and then once he is, that's when they start asking the questions. Sean asks him, where were you? And Roscoe starts mumbling how they took him to a room, they won't turn on the lights, and they tied him up. He says how they never left, and there was a smell, a rotting smell. Sean then asks him, well, what do you see? What do you hear? And Roscoe fights the words, but he does end up mumbling he's behind the door. And Natalie can tell that Roscoe's in a fragile state, so she reminds him, hey, you're in a safe space here. But Sean, wanting answers, yells, no, he's not. Go back. Who's behind the door? And Roscoe just starts yelling, knees, knees, knees. They're on their knees, bowing down to him. And his hand is a hook. Sean starts asking, well, did you see a baby? And Roscoe says, crying. The baby is crying. And at this point, Roscoe himself is crying. I can't stress enough how much Roscoe is fighting telling this whole story. But he says that the baby was being passed forward. Until finally, this guy with the hook was holding the baby. And Sean is screaming, well, what was he doing with the baby? And that's when Roscoe says the most troubling thing of all. He takes out the eyes and he throws them away. And everybody in the room is freaked out, including Julian, who is actually holding back tears of his own. And that's when Natalie snaps Roscoe out of it. But Roscoe is freaked out because of the fact that he blocked all of that out. And Julian, who is in a state of denial, thinks that he was just drugged. He didn't see any of it. But Natalie's pretty convinced that that all was true. Afterwards, though, Natalie wants to talk to Julian because of the way he acted. She understands why Sean acted the way he did because of this fake Jericho, but she wants to know why Julian was upset. And he claims that it's for Dorothy, but Natalie isn't buying that. She asks him, do you miss him too? And he says, no, Jericho's dead. But she says, not him, the other one. He doesn't really answer the question, though, just talking about how when he was a kid, he wanted to go into deep, deep space. And Natalie says, I really want to help you. I mean, I've tried everything. And Julian says nothing helps, but she shoots back, you don't allow it to help. She tells him, you have to believe in something, no matter how stupid it sounds. And this is now the second time in a day that Julian's heard that he doesn't believe in anything. And while those two were chatting in the kitchen, Sean was helping Roscoe out. He thanks Roscoe for going through that whole ordeal, and then Roscoe finds his keys in a pocket that he never uses. And then he heads home. Now, Sean did as he was told. He taped the news coverage that night. But Dorothy is weird as hell. First of all, she's not looking into the main camera. She's doing the news extremely slow and very creepy. And when it ends, she kind of hijacks it, putting a plea out to Leanne that if anyone knows where she is, to please contact her at the station. And when she gets home, she tells Sean, I don't think they're going to have me on the desk again. But Sean says, you did what any mother would do. She then goes upstairs, though, to take a shower, and in the middle of it, the water just stops. She calls down to Sean, but Sean is a little busy because while she was in the shower, she got a phone call from an unknown number, and Sean just answered it, and it was Leanne. Leanne asked Sean, why is she looking for me? Sean asks, where are you, Leanne? But Leanne asks him, why haven't you told her what she did? And downstairs, in those cracks that formed in the cellar when Leanne went down there to get some wine a couple of weeks ago, this murky liquid starts forming. Thanks for checking this recap out. Consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video if you liked it. Hit thumbs down if you didn't. If you don't see the next episode in one of the end screens, not to worry, it'll be up shortly. Be nice in the comments section. If you heard a mistake, hey, mistakes happen. You don't have to point it out. You can just keep it moving. And check out my guys over at Scene Invaders. They're reacting live to each episode of Servant. It's not a recap. It's just their reaction to the episode. It's really good stuff. Check them out as well.